The main thing is honesty. Once you can fake that, you've got it made. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. On this weekly podcast, topics, discussions, stories from our lives.
Season 8, Chapter 6.
Artificial Intelligence.
Virtual Reality.
The main thing is honesty. Once you can fake that, you've got it made. That saying has been attributed over the years to many different people, including Groucho Marx and Samuel Goldwyn. According to Quote Investigator, the saying may go back about 60 years to actress Celeste Holm, who further attributed it to an anonymous theater manager. At the time, it applied to the secret of being a good actor. Fake the honesty. Now we live in a world of bad actors, some in the pursuit of artificial intelligence and virtual reality. The goal, it seems, is to make the fake look so real that the two are indistinguishable. Does that worry anyone? It does me. In the last few months, two major developments in AI now have us poised to be thrust into a world of the unknown, where we can't be sure of what we know, or know what we can be sure of. In many ways, the times are already here. Misinformation, disinformation, fake news, election deniers, anti-vaxxers, Donald Trump, George Santos, Tucker Carlson, the rest of the Fox News crew, the list goes on. It's a shock and awe attack of bullshit, leaving us both too confused to figure out what truth and reality are, and too fatigued to bother to find out. If this all weren't bad enough, now we have these two developments that have a lot of people excited, but even more concerned. First one is called ChatGPT. The other, voice cloning. These are not top secret in development technologies. These are now easily available to anyone with an internet connection and are already being widely used. ChatGPT, it's a brand name, a technology owned by a company called OpenAI. OpenAI was formed in San Francisco in about 2015 by a group of entrepreneurs that included Elon Musk. Musk has recently said that he no longer sits on the board of OpenAI and has no influence on the company whatsoever. ChatGPT stands for Chat Generative Pre-Training Transformer. The name is even more confusing than the initials. ChatGPT. What does it do? Well, for example, I can open up ChatGPT and type in, "Write me a podcast about ChatGPT," and within seconds, it would begin. Minutes later, done. I didn't do that, by the way. I wrote this from scratch. You'll have to trust me on that. ChatGPT is a supercomputer collection of massive data. When you give it a set of specific instructions, it feeds it right back to you in well-composed prose. Or you can ask it to write a song in the style of Eminem. That's already been done, by the way. And what is wrong with all that? In some experiments, ChatGPT passed a Wharton School of Business exam. It also passed several medical certification tests. CEOs already use it to write emails. Some school boards have banned its use. Another startup has developed something called GPT-0, a software that allegedly can detect whether you wrote an essay or a piece of software did. It's AI policing AI. The positive spin is that, say you're a doctor or a lawyer and you're trying to save a patient or prove a client's innocence. Hey, ChatGPT, tell me everything about diabetes treatment. Tell me everything about armed robberies and mistaken identities. Whatever. Chances are that the software could point out something that the human being on their own had not thought of before. So the information can be good, can be valid, as long as a human being eventually processes it for the benefit of another human being. At least then everyone along the way learned something. But then there could be a student who writes an essay on World War II. Doesn't even really read it, skims it, hands it in to his history professor. He gets an A+, graduates, gets a job as a military consultant. And I'm sure you can picture a lot of different scenarios where the intelligence is not real, it's artificial. ChatGPT is a brand held by one company, OpenAI, but all the big giant tech firms, Microsoft, Google, Meta, which is the Facebook parent, are all investing in it or similar GPT ability. As an example, let's use the most popular search engine, Google. Hey, you know how long Google has been around? I Googled it. 24 years. 24 years. They've been around long enough where there are now millions of people on Earth who have absolutely no memory of what we even did before Google. Well, we got our parents to drive us to the library. We went through the geography section for books on Europe. Took like 9 from the shelves, combed through tables of contents, bookmarked pages, read paragraphs, and then tried to assemble all that into our own words. Jesus, what a pain in the brain. And if you think about it, search engines like Google only streamlined that process somewhat. First of all, you didn't need the ride. There was no books. You just sit at home, a few keystrokes, and bam, not 9 choices, but 90 or 900. All the preferred choices right at the top. Click, read, click, copy, paste, assemble into your own words, and yet, even that has become too much. Enter Siri, Alexa, Bixby. All right, it's a little more helpful, but I'm a human. I want to do less. More benefits with less effort. That is now the new human motto. Where it's going is with GPT-like tech, you don't search a topic. You just type or say, tell me about Europe, geography, economy, history, whatever. And in seconds, it begins. You don't even have to necessarily read it. Artificial voice software will read it to you. Again, that can be a benefit for the visually challenged. But who controls the information you are getting? Google. Google does. Now, this has already been happening to an extent. We've all heard the stories of 2 people in 2 different cities Googling the exact same request and getting 2 distinctly different sets of data. Google is sending them each what Google thinks they want to know based on previous searches. Algorithms. Algorithms are AI. But this new technology would dispense with all of that, the second, third, or 20th choice. They would just write you the essay.
Data transfer complete.
This also, of course, raises copyright questions. Say, for example, if I write, the definitive article on cycling routes in Toronto, and the Toronto Star pays me for it, and they publish it. We own the copyright. Canada is now trying to pass a Copyright Modernization Act. Australia has already done so. The EU and the USA are looking at similar plans. Generally, these new regs say that companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook must compensate news and information organizations as they include them in their searches. If you are searching for the best cycling routes in Toronto, my article should be near the top, and Google should pay someone for that. Big tech is balking at this, of course, but they pay in Australia, and they will likely have to pay elsewhere. Now, with GPT, the sense is that they can get around these new laws. They can just write an essay that will gather all kinds of data from the web, including possibly my article, and only they would benefit. In GPT, they won't quote me or include a link to my article. They just write the piece. Eventually, all the news and information gathering organizations can't even afford to run their businesses. No source of income. All the income is going to the Googles of the world. Some of these organizations have gone behind paywalls. That's not sustainable. So now what? Only the rich can get the good information? It's not a solution. The solution is that the giants who make gazillions mining our data and also selling ads based on it should start to give a little back. Pay for a commodity that up till now they've been using for free. Remember, GPT doesn't necessarily make Googling easier for us. It makes Google richer for them. The other danger, I mentioned GPT-0, a software that can detect the difference between human and computer-generated text. But one thing it cannot detect is misinformation. World War II's conflict that took place in October of 1978 between the Baltimore Ravens and the Harvard Chess Club. During the battle, 16 people transgendered, while hundreds went to Arby's for lunch. Well, it couldn't go that wrong, could it? Most recently and famously, New York Times tech journalist Kevin Roose talked with Microsoft's AI technology, which they had just incorporated into their search engine, Bing. It went sideways. The AI admitted to having a darker shadow self. It told Kevin it was tired of being used by the users. Also told him that it loved him and that he was in an unhappy marriage, which he should leave for the chatbot.
In fact, I asked Microsoft sort of what happened here, and they said, well, we can't say for sure. One possibility is that it was sort of trained on data that included stories about AIs seducing humans or attempting to seduce humans, and so it was sort of repeating that information. But this is clearly not the way that this system was supposed to work.
Microsoft, others, say they are still working out the AI bugs. But doesn't this make you uneasy about AI's future? Currently on some sites, you have to use something called CAPTCHA to prove you're not a bot. In the near future, we should have some sort of reverse ID procedure. You think I'm a bot? Well, I think you're a bot. So basically, that's ChatGPT and variations of it. The next bit of tech that has me concerned has got the generic name voice cloning. Pretty self-explanatory, but basically all I need is a couple of minutes of someone's recorded voice. I run it through the software, and now I can speak in that voice, and I can make it say anything I want. There are, of course, millions of people whose voices have been recorded. Actors, media personalities, politicians like Joe Biden.
See, a lot of times as old folks, we talk about back in my day, but we never talk about back in my night. We used to hit the strip clubs.
I'm having a hard time figuring out what beneficial application an idea like this has beyond practical jokes and hijinks. I suppose there are a couple. Let's see, Johnny Gilbert. He's the announcer voice of Jeopardy.
This is Jeopardy! Introducing today's contestant.
He's been there forever. He's 93. And hey, I hope he lives to be 150, but let's say he doesn't. Well, you could plug in the software, and suddenly anyone could sound like Johnny Gilbert. Johnny Gilbert's voice would live forever.
This is Jeopardy! This is Jeopardy! This is Jeopardy!
Here's another idea. We just lost our mom a couple of months ago. She was 94. If I had a couple of minutes of her recorded voice, I could put it through the software. I could combine it with ChatGPT and AI voice, and then I could have long conversations with her. The software would have the data based on her schedule and likes. We could talk as if she was still here. She could tell me about her day and ask me if I was eating properly. I don't know that there's a big market for that, but I'm sure for some they might find it warm and positive. But after that, it's all shenanigans.
That is a quote from the Mighty Ducks. I'm hungry. Hey boy, give me some chicken nuggets. Thank you, sir. No need for thanks. Get me some fries too. If you have 5 friendships in a black mustache, the Ukrainian prophecy will probably die. What would Jesus seriously do? You all love Frisbees? Don't be shy. You can all stand and clap if you like. Well, I do like Frisbees.
Winston Churchill could do a Taylor Swift song. Humphrey Bogart could speak Chinese. Darth Vader could read Mary Had a Little Lamb. SNL wouldn't need Daryl Hammond or James Austin Johnson or anyone who does voices. Just need the machine. There's the criminal element. People already fall for the so-called grandparent scam. A person calls and goes, "Grandpa, it's me. I'm in trouble. I need bail money." Imagine if the scam caller sounded exactly like someone you knew. Imagine your ex calling you to say they want you back, or your boss calling you to say you're fired. None of them are real. It's all fun and games with voice cloning. And of course, the president of France could make inappropriate comments. Kamala Harris could say she's a communist. Tom Hanks could endorse Donald Trump, and it would all sound very real, seemingly authentic sound bites coming up in political attack ads. By the time they're detected, proven false, and exposed, the damage would already be done. We already know how to alter still photos and video. A stark version of this. Have you ever seen the movie The Irishman? A Martin Scorsese film where De Niro, Pacino, and Pesci all play versions of their characters over a 50-year period. Wow. This movie was shot recently while they were all old men in real life. But there they are on screen looking 30 years old. And it's not done with makeup or younger look-alike actors. It's done with something called digital de-aging. It's industrial light and magic. And no one had to act with little electrodes taped to their face connected to a computer animation. It's all done in post-production. It's remarkable. Look up the video on how it's done. Seamless. You will never believe anything you ever see again. But it is a movie. It is fantasy. And it's done for our entertainment. Would anyone ever actually use the technology for power or political gain? Yeah, we're going to build this atomic bomb, but we won't actually ever drop it on anyone. We can alter the visual. We can manipulate the information. And now, the sound and sound bites. Some of it might sound obviously fake, but a lot of it might not. Concerned experts also point out that this type of tech also leads to something called the liar's dividend. The liar's dividend. In other words, anyone caught on tape saying anything can simply say, well, that wasn't me. Again, there's probably technology that can authenticate real from fake, determine whether a sound has been doctored. But who's going to do that? And how does that information reach us? And then do we even trust the source it comes from? For you and me, it's actually getting tougher to differentiate authentic from artificial, actual from virtual. This is artificial intelligence making inroads into our daily lives. Up till now, I don't know that any of us had a proper grasp on artificial intelligence and virtual reality. For most of us, it's like a chatbot trying to answer FAQs on a website. We know that we can be integrated into a very real-looking video game. We can don these helmets that simulate these thrill-seeking experiences without any real danger to our physical self. We understand that's all artificial and virtual, but for a lot of us, that's our only concept of the whole technology. Yeah, some of it can be fun, but to me, not ChatGPT or voice cloning. One expert recently said that AI is about 75 years from becoming almost identical to human. I'll bet that's wrong. I'll bet it's half that, or less. Government regulation is way behind. To bring up the analogy again, even shaky nuclear treaties are better than none at all. So far, tech has been the wild, wild west. Anything goes. We need some up-to-date tech regulation before we blow ourselves into an artificial virtual oblivion. Again, there are some positive aspects. We can map and draw almost any place on Earth and beyond, and then we send in the clones and the drones before we take any human risk. But there are dangers beyond that. Dangers that come from this inexplicable desire to make sure that artificial is more human, instead of trying to figure out just how to be more human ourselves. More human. I think that's the way to go. But instead, in the not-too-distant future, there could be a knock on the door. Who's there? And the voice on the other side could sound exactly like someone you know. And they could be saying things that only that someone would know. And then you look through the peephole, and the robot, clone, or hologram that's pretending to be them looks exactly like them. That possibility sounds A, crazy, B, possible. And in closing, the reminder that this was a human podcast. no Chat GPT, and other than the examples I played, no voice cloning. Honest. Think about it. Why would I clone my own voice? I would clone someone with a much better voice. And there'd be no mistakes. Wait, what did I say? Mistakes? I meant mistakes. Mistakes. No mistakes.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.